Wow, good evening, folks. It's Monday, and of course, it's Airfix and Chill. So, good evening, everyone. As you can see by the title, I thought we'll put it all on the table tonight. The Soviet conundrum or the Russian conundrum, and we've got a good panel tonight. We've got James from Tabody Go. We've got Luke from Black Rifle Model Works. We've got Zinzan from Zinzan Scale Modeling. Dirk from 92s. John Alex Scale Modeling from his channel, and we've got Sully who reached 10,000 subscribers this week. So congratulations, mate!
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, comrade.
Yes. How do you feel?
Very good, brother.
How do you feel that you hit that milestone?
It's taken too long, but I'm happy. It's been a slow ride. It's been a rough couple of years, but I'm chuffed. We finally got there. So it's always upwards and onwards into either way. So I'm just happy people just keep watching. To be honest with you, it still surprises me that people listen to my shit Birmingham accent.
For me,
it's better than my Birmingham accent.
Yeah, better than mine.
It is a thing of beauty.
Well, I won't go that far.
That's his charms.
Yeah. Right. Also tonight, I had some complaints last week that the advert seemed to be pinging every 12 minutes. Now, I've gone through the monetization of this and I've set it for every 30 minutes. So you will get an advert every 30 minutes. We don't make the rules, okay? Yeah. YouTube is a sandbox and we have permission to play in it. And we're allowed to bring little toys in it and stuff. But ultimately, if they decide that the limit of us playing in the sandpit's 30 minutes, then so be it. So
let's have put a little bit of interest out there. Will it be baking soda or will it be salt? The adverts.
The adverts, yeah. Don't get me wrong. So hopefully, any questions, any comments, remember, capital letters, QQQ or question, and we're going to try and get as much on. Because tonight, as you know, was it last night or the night before, I released a video. And now I've been bitten before. When the war with the Ukraine and Russia first started, I put out a video, I did a review, then a build of the Airfix Vintage Classic JS3 or IS3, the Joseph Stalin tank. And I remember within the first 48 hours, I lost around 30 subscribers. I had quite a bit of hate in the comments, which at the time I deleted. I regret it. I should have kept them up. I tend not to delete comments unless they're xenophobic, racist, or whatever. I delete them straight away. Well, they get held, and then I delete them. But if it's personal attack, I delete them as well. But 9 times out of 10, I just leave them up, and then I hope that you guys who watch a video will comment on those people who make the rash and nasty comments and not defend me, but then just it's out of order. So basically, it polices itself. So anyway. I then decided to review this, which I've had in my stash for a very long time. And actually, what I've seen of the kit, it looks very good. And via the comments, people who have built this kit say it's very, very good. 1984, but and hasn't been seen since, I think it was 1996. So if Airfix were looking at putting some more helicopters, and they have done in the last few years, vintage classics, put helicopters in the range, and I made a comment on there about that it could cause a bit of a grey area because it's Soviet and we know how people react about this, and and I just put some suggestions in there on whether they should release it in different schemes, and that Soviet isn't Russian. And I still got comments, particularly one that said, why is this idiot politicizing and making it political? Unsubscribed. And I just thought, let's just lay it all on the table tonight. Let's just lay it down. My response to any of this is that I'm not here to judge you on who you or what you build or where you build it and what scheme you do anything. And I'm certainly not being political. When I've said in the past that I've made a moral choice not to buy Zvezda kits, that is an own personal thing, and I do not judge anyone who goes out and finds a way of buying a Zvezda model and builds it. Nothing to do with me. But my own personal morals and the way I see the things at the moment, and I'm not trying to get into why they're warring and everything. That doesn't bother me at the moment. I felt that I can't really justify going out buying a Zvezda kit. Besides, I've got 3 or 4 in the stash that I need to build anyway. But for me, that's where my lay of the land lies. So, but as I said, it's a conundrum, the Soviet conundrum. I've called this one, but it's a triangulation of the situation we're in now. One is, why would you build a Russian or a Soviet scale model? At the moment we are in theory at war, and it's a bloody war. So why build a model to represent that? Fair enough. That's one argument. 2, it's not the actual model or the representation of the model. It's the fact who's actually building or making the kit. Is it a Russian manufacturer? So I'm not going to buy a Russian manufacturer. And the third thing is there is a complete difference between Soviet and Russia. Soviet was gone when basically when the Berlin Wall fell. Back in 19. Is it 1989?
Soviet Union lasted until 1990, when it became the Commonwealth of Independent States, or CIS, as they called it, CIS.
Yeah.
And only after 1991 did that fell apart.
Yeah.
And that became all the individual nations that we know today.
Yeah. So you've got that as well. So there's 3 points to this, okay? And you can bring in the other thing is that we buy kits from countries that don't have the greatest of human rights records and things like that. But we're going to just stick to this, and I'm going to lay it on the table. So let's just start off with the real what I think is the biggest issue, and this is the political part of it, right? That in theory, we shouldn't be buying Zvezda kits because or kits that come from Russia because of this war. And if you buy a kit that's made in Russia, you are funding the Russian war, the war machine. Okay, that's the one thing that's the biggest thing in this, I reckon. Should you be buying these kits from now? So I lay it all out there. As I said, I've put my side of it, how I feel on this, and at the moment that's the way it stands. But I know there is trade regulations. I was told that, and it'd be good if we had a model owner here who actually understands where they're getting their Zvezda kits from. That in theory, a model kit is classed as a luxurious goods coming from there, and there was a trade embargo on luxurious goods. That's my understanding. Now, I've heard all the other arguments saying, well, it's not actually, you can get them, but it'd be interesting to know,
as a toy.
How easier it is to get the kits in from Russia now to the UK, because by what I understand, that the main suppliers who originally were supplying Zvezda back before the war started can't get the kits. So while we talk about that bit, I will put comments in. If you've got any comments, put them in the chat and we'll add them to the screen. But who wants to start first on this then? Do you think it's right that we should be buying kits that are made in a country that's chosen to go to war and invade another country? Let's put that
I think
Go on then, you start if you want.
Benedetto puts it right when he says, what he says in the chat. Put into perspective, most of Europe still buys its gas from Russia, or at least did until very recently, or they still do it in a roundabout way. So that's on an industrial level and on a national level and an international level. So and we buy other raw materials that are only obtainable from Russia or Russian territories. The West still buys those items. Yeah. They will find a way around those sanctions. They will put up a holding company somewhere, do it a bit shady, get another company in Cyprus, for instance, that does the bookkeeping for them and do your trade with them. Who are we to then say, I won't let you buy a Zvezda kit. That's complete bonkers.
Mm.
If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. That's your personal choice.
Mm. How there
I
are people,
wouldn't, for instance, buy a new kit. I have a few that I bought, and this is coming from someone who lives in a city where 3 families were completely wiped out when an airliner was shut down in 2014, July 2014, right? That's my hometown. We lost 3 complete families here, 17 people in one go.
Yeah, that's a powerful thought. But like I said, you know, people can choose what they build. I know people who won't build Airfix because they got a kit 5 years ago, and then you know, and the wings were warped. You know what I mean? So they'll never buy an Airfix kit again. What's your thoughts on this, Zinzan? You have you got any sort of thought about buying a Russian-made model or kit or Russian-made accessory?
There are some things I suppose, that I observe, which is, I mean, right at the start, you talked about people making political comments, and I think one of the things is that a political comment is obvious as soon as it's made, and therefore, if somebody's building a kit, it can't be argued, I think, that that's a political comment. I think in and of itself. Now, the other thing I've heard said is that the personal is political. I myself don't believe that, and I think that is just an engine used by some people to try and indicate that effectively they have nothing else to say apart from that. There are people behind Zvezda who are just ordinary folk like you and I, who get up in the morning and they go and do a job, and they probably do it to the best of their ability, because their whole livelihood is dependent upon it. And I think it's not, you know, they're not involved in the politics. They just want to go and buy a loaf of bread at the end of the day and sit down with their children and their families and live. And I mean, this whole Russia-Ukraine thing, I'm not sure what it's all about, but I can take a guess. And I rather suspect that it's got much more to do with rare earth metals than it has to do with anything else. And anybody who perhaps thinks otherwise, they're welcome to that view. It's interesting when I look at how people work in this country. For example, many of you will know my adventure with a certain distributor of hobby bits and pieces in this country, whom I approached a year or so or 2 years or so ago for some plastic rod. And they said, "Oh no, we don't sell plastic rod here because of climate emergency and net zero." And I said, "Oh, that's funny, you sell plastic kits. What's the difference?" And I think people have a kind of exhibit a double standard in that sense. If you want to build a Russian model, for whatever reason you want to do it for, I think maybe you could very well be allowed to do it. The market makes its own choices. It's much more complicated than any one of us. And the reality of this is that if I only build Russian models, people will vote with their feet. Maybe they won't. I don't know. You know, maybe they don't tune into my channel for anything other than the inane jibber jabber that I give them. It could be just that. But you know, the reality, as I see it, is that, you know, the market will choose. It will decide, and that's, I think, all that, you know, all that has to be looked at. And it's no good people being offended on behalf of other people. Be offended on behalf of yourself, by all means. Absolutely no problem with that, because I get offended at stuff. We all do. But don't be offended on other people's behalf. And look, it's a terribly complicated thing, and it's horribly difficult to have different opinions to other people. And I've not looked at the public comments yet. I don't know what anybody's saying, whether they agree with what I'm saying or not. I don't know. And it's probably as well that I don't see it, to be honest with you. But look, this is just a company that happens to be in another part of the world. We could say the same thing about Chinese kits, couldn't we?
Yeah.
It's go on.
Yeah. I was just going to say we're going to come on to that in a minute. There was already a comment before saying, should we be building US war machines now that they're involved in the war? This is why we're having the debate. And Justin Mason's put a comment up saying, once again, the scale modeling community discusses politics. We're not discussing politics. We are having the debate on the thoughts. And at the moment, looking at what I'm reading, there's a 50-50 split. Going by the comments I've read so far on those who are willing to build and buy Russian or Soviet vehicles to build, and there are those who won't. So, this isn't politics. We're having a debate on the whole situation of this conundrum of, what do you feel is right? And I'm pretty sure that soon enough that, and sorry, what I say is that we've already had debates in the past when we had the Afghan or the Operation Herrick War, when Airfix was slated in our Houses of Parliament for creating models of mass destruction and putting it into a kit and calling it Operation Herrick. We know this. We've seen it. I think it was 2014, 10 years ago. So we're not discussing the politics of the war or anything. We're just discussing our own moral dilemmas or how we see things on buying and building Russian kits that are made there, or just the kits that represent Russian vehicle. Luke, what's your take on all this?
Brace yourselves.
Here we go.
Here we go.
I mean, I think
Brace for impact.
First and foremost, I think we shouldn't really, on a modelling live stream, the politics of the situation is not something that we should really get into too much, because this is about modelling and it's about a choice. Now, unfortunately, the internet being the internet and social media being social media, for a long time now, both here and in the US, predominantly what we would class as sort of the West, if you like, there's been lots and lots, and still is, of virtue signaling on the internet.
Very good, yes.
So it's very, very easy for someone to sit at home and make a comment on a video regarding either a Russian manufactured model kit or a Soviet subject or Russian subject or whatever. It's very, very easy to make a comment because all they're doing is virtue signaling. Because the common narrative, the common rhetoric, and has been for a significant amount of time, is that the East is bad, Russia's bad, and there's been lots. Everyone is modelers, me included. This is very important to me. What we do and what we do on our bench, it's important. It's a massive part of my life. But we're looking at two completely different subjects. The politics is very, very separate to what we do on our bench. Will I buy a Zvezda kit? Absolutely. Will I build a Russian subject? Absolutely. Will I build a Soviet subject? Absolutely. Because it's not a political statement. It's not. If I want to talk about politics and I want to put my political view across, then there are other places to do it rather than on modeling videos, modeling channels, and everything else. And for someone to launch a tirade of abuse against a content creator that's talking about a kit that was manufactured in 1984 that happens to be of a Soviet-made, Soviet-manufactured rotary wing aircraft is just ridiculous. Because of what's happening in Eastern Europe in 2025. It's just beyond ridiculous. And there's been a couple of comments about, oh, I won't build this because I'm a military blah blah. So am I. So am I. But it makes no difference. It makes no difference. And the politics, you need to leave. It's a hobby, and it should be enjoyable. Build whatever you want from whoever you want. Because the reality is, you buying a Zvezda kit is not going to make any difference to the war effort. You not buying a Zvezda kit is not going to make any difference to the war effort. Half of Europe buys their gas and oil from Russia. You're talking about billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, are we going to glorify a country that invades another, which was another comment that was made? We invaded Iraq. How many people are going to build the new Airfix Jaguars and not Telecom?
Yeah.
Or an up Granby one that was involved in the invasion or the first Gulf War or whatever.
Or the Chinook, or the Buccaneer.
Or a Chinook or a Buccaneer.
Or a Strike Eagle.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
You know? And if you want to be that political, then that's fine. That's your choice. We live in a democracy, allegedly. We live in a democracy, so people have a freedom of choice currently. But no one should be criticized for their freedom of choice. If people want to have a political debate about the rights and wrongs of the politics, then there are other places to do it, rather than on a modeling stream, on someone puts up a video or whatever. That's not a political statement. You are not a political commentator, Moz. Oh yeah, you put a video up. You put a video up about a model kit, and then to receive a tirade of abuse because it's Russian, then, you know, if these people want to do that, there are other places you can do it where you can have much more constructive debate and fall out with people if you want to. The internet's wide open, you know. I just don't think it should factor into what we do as modelers and what we do as a hobby. But unfortunately, that virtue signaling is across all platforms, you know, and the modeling now it has a big social media. People interact a lot via social media in the community. So therefore, that virtue signaling will creep in. And that's all it is. If you're that bothered, get on the ferry, go to the Ukraine, and if you're that bothered, pick up a weapon and fight. If you're that bothered. If your conviction is so strong that you're going to launch a personal attack on someone that's released a video about a model kit, if your personal conviction is that strong, then you can go to the Ukraine and you can fight. And if you're not going to do that, I'm not interested in anything that you got to say. Really. Politically.
As I said at the time, this is when the war just started. So that JS3 video is about 2.5 years old. So when I did this video, the reluctancy of doing the video but trying to put a different slant on the video to say that if they release, you know, if Airfix want to release this kit, they could use different schemes. That was the whole idea. And instead, the debate started to turn a little bit. So, but I'm just going to go through the comments here because Paul Wiltshire Models put comment, I would build the Soviet models, but as much as I want to build a jet from Russia or Ukrainian Air Forces, I can't because it goes against my morals as an ex-army vet. Fair enough. That's the moral decision. That's exactly what we're saying here. Everything's not political. It's a moral decision. It's your own heart and soul. You decide what you want to do and what you don't want to do. It's up to you. Five Eyes is not watching. For everyone built 148, if everyone built 148 John Deere lawn tractors, the world would be a peaceful and Moz would be especially happy. I'd love to build a John Deere lawnmower. I really would. But at 124, that'd be good. I have a feeling that I had heard Zvezda had relocated, I think, to Azerbaijan, which I've heard that too, but there's no confirmation of that. When you see it on Scale Mates or whatever, you hear that it's a Russian-owned company or Russian house company.
Apparently, Airfix are Russian.
No, they're not.
Well, I saw on Wikipedia.
You didn't see it there, mate. If we want Russian
Source
kits
fall
because
through.
of war, we shouldn't buy Ukrainian kits either and maintain as such a full neutrality.
Mm.
I do not believe, however, politics should not influence our. However, believe politics should not influence our love for model kits. Exactly, it shouldn't influence. That's political influence. But what about more?
It's comments like that, and I'm going to say it, and kick me out if you want, Moz, because it's ridiculous. Someone's put in the chat, buying Sylvester kits funds genocide. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. That's a ridiculous statement.
I've had that comment there. Scale model shed. We'll go back to your question. I think that's a good question. That little history said from Jadlams, Vesda is a Russian manufacturer of plastic scale model aircraft, military vehicles, tanks, figures, and boat ships. We are an official UK supplier of Zvezda with a huge range of etc. So maybe Zvezda, maybe Jadlam are bringing it in. I don't know. I'd have to have a chat with Russ. I don't think they're a UK supplier. I don't know how you use the term official, but you know, I'm sure that if you sell model kits, you'll be official anyway. But if that's on their website, then maybe they've got a way of getting
Official
the kits in.
Official is basically okay. Do you have the paperwork to prove that you imported a bunch of sister kits?
Yeah,
That's official. There you go.
Yeah. The other thing is, this is from Ben. The other thing is, where do we differentiate? Is it Russia or is it the Russian government who are at war? Well, Russian government, yeah, but then there are Russian people who are soldiers who are fighting in this war.
Yeah, but also what I think is it's very difficult to have this debate without bringing in politics and everything else. A lot of the people that are fighting on behalf of Russia are forced to be there. Not all of them, but they're forced to be there. And if they don't go, they suffer consequences that us in the West cannot even begin to imagine the consequences, not only for that individual, but for their families.
Yeah.
So, you know, Ukrainians are dying at a massive rate. Russians are dying at a massive rate.
It's a no-win war. It's a no-win war. It's
Absolutely.
a no-win war.
Absolutely.
You know, Russia's got 110 million. It's 110 million population, and they're nowhere near in the end of winning this war than they were when they first started. You know, it's one huge clusterfuck anyway, and it's causing bloodshed for families, you know, on both sides. And at the end of the, you know, I've got my opinions on it. I know exactly how it all stands. You know, personally, I don't think we should get involved. That's my own choice in that thing. You know, I don't think as us as a country should get involved, but we should be pretty much saying, no, you can't do that, Russia. You can't just invade someone else's country. But under that fact, but I was watching a program and they basically said that, you know, if the people that should be sorting this out is the actual European government, the European Union, because what was said was that if the Ukraine gave up their, this is what I was told, so don't quote me on this. This is what was said on the telly. If the Ukraine was promised, if they gave up their atomic weapons, Russia would leave them alone, not interfere with them, and Europe will protect them. It'll be Europe as a whole will protect the Ukrainians if something should happen. And unfortunately, both have gone against what they had said in principle. Europe hasn't really protected the Ukraine, and Russia has now gone in. What was the country they took? They was part of Ukraine. They took over originally, weren't they, and claimed it as theirs. Crimea. You got that part of it as well, and then we kind of just ignored it, and then it went that stage further. But ultimately, in my own thing, you know, I'm more worried about China. You know, with 1.3 billion people in China, I think the next war will be between the US of A and China, to be honest. Well, there's a Cold War anyway. So Rob says, I think it's not been allowed to build. It's your right in a free country to be able to. Yeah, exactly. And that's
right, Rob.
And that's it. So Primus Modeling Shed is just putting a question saying, if people refuse to buy Russian-made models, Do you think the Russians refuse to buy any models built in Britain or America, or even in Europe? Probably true. Probably is.
No, not being funny. Was I watched a YouTube channel, and it was around a model show in Russia, and obviously that ICM, Revel, Italieri, they're all there.
Yeah. Mm.
Even Tamiya were there.
But so, do you think the Russians have said, oh, we're not going to build an Airfix kit, or we're not going to build a Hella kit, or we're not going to build a Revell kit? Do you think they've done that in their country? Do you think they have the same argument as we have? That being patriotic, we're not building anything from there because it's Europe. We're going to just stick to building Chinese models and Russian models. Seeing that, I think it was Hobby Boss and Trumpeter. I think it was Hobby Boss.
I do know a couple of Russian and even Belarusian modelers, and they build whatever they like.
Yeah.
I suspect it's probably quite likely that a Russian model kit manufacturer will do quite well in its home market in exactly the same way as Airfix do well in their home market. And we look at the slew of new releases from Airfix, and they get maximum publicity. Of course they should. I suppose it leads to the question, particularly after the recent Lysander launch and some of the really good things that people are saying about them, or about that particular kit. This Zvezda crew, are they any good at making models? Do they make good models?
They do. They actually do.
Oh, now that's a recommendation in and of itself. And may I suggest
the irony is that I brought a Zvezda kit out of curiosity. I brought a T28 tank. In 1/72 scale. It went together beautifully.
It's like I said, the market decides.
Yeah.
It's not a political thing. People buy them because they're good and they go together well.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's I think the danger is, and I think we're all guilty of it. I know in the past I've certainly been guilty of it. I'm really not anymore. I couldn't give a monkeys. But I spend a lot of time at this bench. A lot of time. Yeah. And whilst I'm at the bench, I'm engaging with modeling social media, if you like. And it's very, very easy to confuse what we do, if we spend a lot of time doing it, with political opinion, political persuasion, and all that stuff. It's very easy to do that. I think you need to keep the two completely separate. Because otherwise, what happens is, as you've experienced this week, Mars, you start to confuse the two. And this is a hobby. This is used for relaxation. Could be, although it's stressful what we do at times, depending on the kit. But it should be a stress release. What you shouldn't do is start to use the social media side of the hobby to get into political debates with people and all that stuff, because that's a completely separate issue. And it's all about freedom of choice. Like Holt said, he knows various Russian modelers who build whatever they want. They're not boycotting Airfix. They're not boycotting Revell. They're not doing any of that stuff because their politics may be very different to ours. Their political viewpoint may be very different. But this is a hobby, and they're just doing what they want to do, and we're not having a massive global impact in this hobby. We are tiny.
Yeah.
But we think we're massive because it's what we do.
Yeah.
Does that make we have a very keyhole view of the world?
Yeah.
Because we think that what we do is the be all and end all. I certainly do. It's very, very important in my life. But guess what? The rest of the world doesn't give them monkeys. Whether I've built a tractor, a tank, a helicopter, they don't care.
I think Goater's 100 just hit the nail on the head with this part. Is that once you've built and painted the Zvezda kit, no one would know who manufactured it. You know what I mean? That's a very good point. Now going back to Zvezda, there's you cannot deny the quality of their scale model kits. There's about 8 or 9 folks I know that build commercial planes.
I've got two
and you can't beat any of it, you know, and that's why Revell used to rebox Zvezda commercial aircraft. You know, and I think that's I'm right in saying that that's what they were doing. I think they, you know, I think you can see on the side of the box where they were, you know, retooling, not retooling, but you know, the commercial airlines, I believe, were Zvezda ones. But going back to what we were saying is that, you know, there's two way of looking at it. Now, here's one for you guys. If you want to make a statement, Tamiya released a Leopard tank in a Ukrainian scheme. Okay, right? Do you feel it's right to buy that kit from Tamiya and build that? There's both sides of the argument here, folks. Just saying. As a scale model, as I say, we're talking about, you know, a bit politicizing.
Well, I think to be honest, Tamiya have done quite a few Leopards in Ukrainian schemes.
But they released it with the fanfare of the Ukrainian flag. Yeah, the Ukrainian, So
as a current operational vehicle.
Yeah,
they did.
I think people have lost perspective and context in today's world. If people believe building a USSR Russian subject is support, then maybe they should get off social media and do some reading.
That's quite true, but
But also, when you watch the news and you see the pain that's happening in the Ukraine, you must stand up and take note and say this has got to stop.
But the thing is, any conflict, any war, is horrible. And people die on both sides, and civilian populations get caught up in it. That is war. Yeah. We would all love for war not to exist, for it not to be a thing where everyone could sit around a table and air their differences. And unfortunately, as a species, it's never been like that, ever. And it never will be. It's just we've got better at it. We used to live in caves and bash each other over the head. Yeah. You know, it's a wood and stuff. We've just got better at fighting each other. And that's just who we are as a species. So war, doesn't matter where it is horrible. What you have to do, sadly, is either remain completely neutral.
Yeah.
So you have no opinion on either side. And that's very easy. Very easy for me to do, sat in the relative safety of the UK.
Yeah.
That is very easy for someone in the relative safety of the US.
This is one of those points.
It's very difficult for someone in Europe. It's on your doorstep. You know, this is happening on your doorstep, and unfortunately, people have to pick a side, and they have to pick a side depending on their morals, on their political views, and that's just the way the human species is, and there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, like I say, it's very easy for these people in the US, in the UK, Canada, Australia, to have these real strong views about what's going on, and they're not going to buy Zvezda kits, and they're not going to build a Russian subject, and they're not going to build a Ukrainian subject, and everything else in the relative safety of where they are, because they're thousands and thousands of miles away from where the metal meets the meat.
Yeah,
you know, and it's as simple as that. Simple as
Stephen Sheets has just put a comment up saying if Airfix and Chill was around in the 1940s, I'm sure the conversation would have been the same. But I would have been somebody, if Airfix released the Messerschmitt 109, right, of that plane, I would have built that in the 1940s and then destroyed it with my Spitfire in a mud pit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but this is what I was saying. It's like the worry, the reason I was saying about the video with them giving the examples was manufacturers a little bit worried on producing these kits in Russian schemes in case they face a backlash. Because as I've said before, I think Airfix were very, very bitten back in, I think it was 2014, even before then, maybe a bit earlier, when they released, and they've never released it again, by the way. It was only a one-off, 1/48 scale of helicopter, tank, figures, resin.
Yes, the quad bike. We all know that episode
Operation
of Airfix and Chill.
Operation Herrick, and they and it was mentioned in Parliament that people thought it was very sick that they were producing these models that was representing war as it stood. And I was under the impression that Airfix decided back then they wouldn't release anything that was in current conflict. Hence why I don't think you'll see a Challenger tank in the Airfix range very soon, because Challengers are now allegedly in the Ukraine.
They are in the Ukraine.
They are in the Ukraine. I said allegedly because I wasn't too sure. But, have we got to a point where manufacturers are scared of producing? Revell haven't released anything Russian in their range this year. I don't believe. I went through it quickly. I didn't see anything Russian in there. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I don't think anyone's released anything Russian of the conflict now. What's being used now? The only thing I've seen is some, Great War Hobbies 2 years ago released a flanker in a different scheme, but they did it for the Ukrainians, I believe. It was all schemed up for Ukrainian. Ghost of Kiev, that's the one. Ghost of Kiev. Great War Hobbies did Ghost of Kiev, didn't they?
Yeah.
Who else did that? ICM did it, which is obvious because they're Ukrainian anyway. But there was another company who did it, or there was people who were doing aftermarket schemes and accessories on the Ukrainian side and offering, that a portion of the selling of this kits will go towards the Ukrainian humanitarian fund. We've had scale model channels who have done a Ukrainian, what's it called? I was going to say telethon, but it's not really. That was in the 80s, wasn't it? A charitable stream where you could donate to the humanitarian fund of the Ukraine. It didn't do it for
There's a whole podcast. There's a whole podcast related to the hobby called Models from Ukraine.
I do. I to be honest, I do remember a time where you had, you must buy a model from Ukraine to support them.
Yeah. Simon Modern Shed Lego refused to model anything to do with war. Yeah, we know that. That's why Airfix do the quick build range. They got into.
That's why.
For myself, I do have a very simple guideline, and that is basically not to do something that is on an active shooting conflict.
But again, that's a personal choice.
That's a personal choice, right? So if I leave those out, that leaves plenty of other opportunities for myself, and that is also a personal choice. I'm not that interested in stuff that is post 1990, 1991.
Yeah,
it doesn't have my interest. So anything up till 2000 or so is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Anything before that period.
Well, there's actually very famous case.
Cold War stuff, especially like the really weird Soviet era stuff. Like, for instance, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, please give me. That's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah.
That's
I get
a piece
that.
of history as well. It's just not the active conflict. So, are you now going to tell me I can't build a Soviet era model? Or is it just because you're pissed off at the current situation and you don't want to build a Russian/Ukrainian conflict involved thing?
Is the typhoon in the Ukraine? I don't think it was.
No,
it's not.
It's part of the NATO air policing role. So there's currently typhoons based in Estonia.
Yeah.
That along with I think the German Air Force and I forget the other one. There's 3 nations basically. They go on like a 4-month rotation. That police a no-fly zone. So what they will do is intercept Russian aircraft that cross a border. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But let's get it right. We do that. The Americans do that. We buzz Russian airspace all the time. All the time. And then we go a little bit too far. They scramble their intercept aircraft. We turn around and we go back. And do you not think that data is being collated somewhere to check their response times? Let's see how quick they are. Let's see how fast they can intercept our bombers. Let's see how
that's a game that's been played
it's
for.
Been going on for decades.
It's been going on for a while. It's been going on for
as soon as
years.
as soon as the war ended, they started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, it's every country does it. It's not just the Russians.
Absolutely.
It's not just us. The Chinese
Everyone
do
does
it, and everybody fucking does it.
There is no military. There is no military establishment. Forget you sort of guerrilla forces and that sort of stuff. Anywhere in the world that doesn't conduct training exercises against a fictitious enemy. Nowhere. And generally, that is guided by the political landscape at the time. Absolutely. And I defy anyone to say that any military in the world does not conduct training exercises based on what is perceived to be the threat at that time.
Just want to jump on here with Ben's comment. No, they won't do it in current combat vehicles. And at the time, the F-35 wasn't in combat in the Ukraine, and neither was the Typhoon. So when they've released them, they weren't in current combat. I think it wasn't me. I just, because I read into a lot of this, because if Airfix is on any channel, I go and watch it. So if Dale's on there or Luke's been on there, I think it was Luke was saying that they made a choice that they wouldn't do anything in current conflict.
But if they're doing a Eurofighter Typhoon, for example, well, the Eurofighter Typhoon, both German and UK, has been on active operations over Syria for a long time.
Yeah. And that's right, Mosh, because you were quite worried about markings of the...
That's concerned. That's called a peacekeeping operation.
Yeah, but they're still dropping bombs on people.
That's how
it works.
I don't know the
if their policy is we will not release any kits that is involved in current military operations, then they breach that, because the Eurofighter Typhoon certainly is being used by the British and Germans and has been for a long time in Syrian airspace, and he's dropping munitions on people on the ground.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, maybe that's it. I remember it said once that they wouldn't do anything in current because of what happened with the Operation Herrick thing. So
it's interesting.
Talk about being, we'll talk about political and moral. Airfix made a choice and said we're not going down that road again. And I said you can go back. I know it's a daily fail, but go back and you read the report on it. That they were absolutely lambasted in the Houses of Parliament, specifically of a resin house, a derelict Afghan house.
I know, I've got one. Looks nothing
I got 5
like an Afghan house.
Yeah, I think I got 2 in a mystery bundle. Do you know what I mean?
Like an Afghan house.
Yeah, I've got 2, and they're very good actually. Very, very well made. So
they're great. They're great models, but they don't look anything like an Afghan house. They just don't.
Nigel, why don't you come on? Nigel? So when the end of the Ukraine war comes,
he's got the lurgy.
Oh, he's got the lurgy, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, bless him. Let's all send healing hands. There you go, healing fingers. And so when the end of the Ukraine war comes, will it be okay to build models of Russian stuff? Of course it
Good
will.
point.
Define Russian Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Russian Soviet state.
Because the Ukrainian military is using lots of Soviet era hardware. For example, I built a book from Meng, but instead of doing it in the Russian scheme that it calls out for in the instructions, I built it in Ukrainian markings, but it's the same piece of equipment.
Yeah, maybe with slight mods, local mods, but
yeah.
So, but I think again, it's down to personal choice. So for me,
correct.
Alt was saying he doesn't really have much interest in anything or building anything prior to sort of mid-90s, late 90s, because that Cold War era is of interest. The weird Soviet stuff and etc. I love modern armor. I love modern aircraft, helicopters. So I have no issue in building something that's being used currently somewhere in the world. I really don't have a problem with that at all. And I think there's a lot of hypocrisy that goes on. For example, you mentioned Tamir released a Leopard in Ukrainian markings that is currently on operations in the Ukraine. So where do you draw the line?
Yeah,
and that was my point. Individual, where do you draw the line? Unless you want to be completely neutral and not or your political view is Russia is absolutely in the wrong. I support the Ukrainian war effort. Therefore, I have no issues building a Leopard in Ukrainian markings. Or I have no issue in buying kits from ICN, or I have no issue in buying the Ghost of Kiev, or I have no issue in buying master.
Which was a myth anyway, wasn't it? Lying bastards. You know what I mean?
It's propaganda. And really, the only people that really know what's going on are the people with boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Because propaganda will come from both sides across the world.
Yeah.
Across the world.
So let's start a GoFundMe page to send our epic reporter Moz out to Ukraine.
We'll send you out there, mate. We'll send you out there. You'd love it out there. You would. Going back to comments, send James out there. You'd love it.
This is also an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, guys, and everyone else. I have a kit in my stash that has the Israeli decals, and a few friends frowned upon about it, and said I should find other Air Force to use. It's me building. It's not them. Very true. Go on, John. What do you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just built that Merkava, the motor models Merkava 2, the Mark II. And I specifically built that for a very dear friend of mine who served, in the IDF, who's here in the States. I love the guy, right? He's a very dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I specifically bought that and built that and sent it to him because he's invested in that. He's vested in it. He is my friend. I am not, but I love the guy, and he is. And so I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I think when it comes to Israel, I understand there's some division there. I think for almost everyone I know, they're it's pretty clear, but it's fine. I did it, and I did it specifically, and I'll go down. I got way less feedback or pushback on that than you might have thought. So that Merkava, the full build, has a 98.4% like rate.
Yeah.
98.4%. Yeah. With nearly 12,000 views. So that should show you that it's okay. People,
But then
100 of those likes for my all alternative YouTube accounts, John.
John, you say that though, but like I said, my Russian tank, my Soviet tank, when I built that, has got a 92% approval because it had a load of dislikes, and this one here that I done just the other day, it's only 94% or 95% because it's got 10 dislikes and only was it 100 whatever, but it was like, so it just shows you that even though people aren't weren't commenting so harshly on that video as it was the first one, there was still a lot of dislikes on the thumbs. And but that's but that's why I shouldn't have said anything in the video. Really, I should just put the video out and said, fuck yeah, you decide if you want to build it or not. But I was looking at ways of how Airfix could release it without a Soviet marking, just to appease. But just go to the comments a minute because I want to get through these. Rich says no Typhoon is not active in Ukraine, but it is in doing border patrols. Regarding buying a Ukrainian kit, don't forget Ukrainians aren't the aggressor; they were invaded. Fair enough. If we are not buying Russian subjects, are we all rushing out to buy Ukrainian subjects? I don't think that's the question. I just, for me personally, and I think a lot of us here, we just build what we want to build. Ukraine have got, most of the Ukrainian military vehicles are Russian or Soviet in their beginnings anyway. So that's what I was, what was my point. So is it wrong that if I like to build IDF, I don't. This is what I'm saying. We're not telling you what to. This is what we're trying to get. We're not telling you what to do. We are just tiptoeing through the moral dilemma of what is right and what is wrong, and actually, this debate has no answers. That's the crux of it. There is no fucking answer to this. This is.
I think there is.
What I think there is. What, that you just build what you want with your own moral decision, personal choice.
Personal choice, yeah.
But all right, that's a fair point then. But my thing was that none of us here are going to agree, and we're going to walk away to agree to disagree. That's what I was trying to get at. Okay.
The thing is, what's happened and what has sparked this subject, if you like, it's the fact that you, Moz, have come under personal attack on the internet for showing a model of a Soviet. That's what sparked this sort of debate, if you like. What it comes down to is personal choice. As it stands, we live in a democracy where personal choice is key. Freedom of choice is key. Unfortunately, the internet being the internet and social media being social media, and I go back to what I said earlier, there's lots and lots of people out there who virtue signal depending on the narrative of the day. And they'll virtue signal and they'll attack people personally. Well, if you look at the definition of fascism, that's exactly what they're doing. By launching a personal attack on someone for their difference of view or their difference of political persuasion or whatever you want to call it. If you're launching a personal attack on someone, that's what fascists do to shut you up. That's what they do. So they're actually doing the very thing that they're kind of disagreeing against. We all have freedom of choice.
That's called a fallacious argument. Described, and I reject them wherever I see them. It's worthwhile just saying you're offering an ad hominem. Go away. I reject your argument. Not an argument. They should attack the issue, not the person.
The same goes for the comment that was previously set up by Steve, I think, because he was going on again about buying a kit and spending. Or that you're funding an origin country's war fund. I think you should actually check what is it you're putting in your car's tank, your fuel tank. If you have a gas stove, don't turn it ever on. Don't ever turn it on again. Put down your cell phone. Shut down your TV, your laptop, whatever, because it has components that are built with raw materials from that area.
Yeah.
Anything you use in that context is also paying towards a war fund. So you got to be honest. You got to be honest. If that is your stance, you have to follow through with it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, just being
I'm
not happy. I'm not happy about my own government buying gas from Russia. I'm not happy about it. And the way I can protest that one is going to the ballot box on the next elections and saying, "You guys did that. I didn't like it. Someone else can have a turn." That's the way you do things.
Yeah,
exactly. And that is your democratic choice, your democratic right, isn't it? And that's how you make the difference.
Or even duty, if you want to.
Absolutely. But that's what it comes down to. It's personal choice. And you're absolutely right that if someone has the conviction to launch a personal attack against someone, then don't turn your gas stove on. Check where your fuel's coming from. Put your mobile phone down. Turn off your laptop. And if that's your stance, then fair enough. I disagree with it from a political point of view. But if that's your stance, fair enough. If you live in a democratic society, you have the choice. But don't be a hypocrite. Don't criticize someone for showing a Soviet-era helicopter and then go into your kitchen and turn your gas oven on. Just don't do that.
Right.
Use your mobile phone to comment on the video.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Which makes it kind of interesting if anything ever kicks off in China as well. By the way.
Well, that's what I mean. I think the next war is going to be China USA, and seeing that 70% of all the iPhones and computer equipment, telephones and monitors and flash drives, when you hear that Apple are investing $1 billion in producing a factory in India to produce their next mobile phone, that says a lot to where Apple feel their loyalties lie. Because they're shitting themselves.
Well, not being funny. Every iPhone's being copied.
But the idea of the taxes that Trump is going to put on China, the tariffs, it's already destroyed a few companies already. But quickly going back, I want to try and get through as many comments.
Don't get me started on tariffs.
Just going through the comments a minute quickly. Like Ben said, 54 minutes before we got to Israel, I'm going to go and grab the whiskey. So the question to turn the table: would you build an aircraft with a Lockerbie background? Because define where you find atrocity, and don't build that aircraft or the Malaysian MH. Sorry, but tell me different. That's a completely different debate here, mate. That is a completely different debate. We've already had we already had 2 years ago the debate over it when we had AK releasing the book with gas chambers in and stuff. So that debate's already been done. If you want to go and watch that, I think that was episode 12. It's a long time ago. But that's not here.
I'm actually trying to wonder what he's trying to get at, because that's
why I wasn't too sure. That's why I said it's a different subject altogether. There's nothing to do with this.
So reduction in absurdum, as they call it.
I suggest Airfix is staying away from politically sensitive topics for its market audience, i.e. the West. Not to be harsh, it's unlikely they'll be sold in places where the subjects are being used. It's a good shout, but I think that's where the stems from. And it's like I said, no manufacturer I've seen has done anything Russian this year. I'm talking Western, not the Chinese, Trumpeter and all that. They're still doing Russian subjects, but not conflict ones. I don't think it's conflict.
Zvezda are doing a few.
Zvezda are doing a cracking Soyuz rocket as well, but going back through the comments, going through as many comments as we can. The technologies, that's something other. You don't have a choice for your fuel. You do have a choice about peripherals.
Yeah, you do have a choice.
Yeah,
don't use it.
Yeah, don't use it.
There's your choice. If you're that strong in your conviction, don't use it.
Yeah, or use green energy like wind energy or solar energy. There you go.
Well, it's funny, isn't it?
You've always got a choice. Always.
I think it's funny, isn't it, how the green lobby are very keen to stop us from travelling on aeroplanes, right up to the point when they want to sod off to the Crete or the Algarve. For
those are not the same people, but anyway.
Yes, like the well-known UK actor who went to, who's very very into the green lobby, and she basically flew to the Cannes Film for a festival. Mention no names.
Barrow, no. You couldn't be more wrong, mate.
I'll just jump in here. Martin, can you email me with that problem?
Yes, I was going to remind you about that, Moss.
Yeah, email me that problem, mate, and we'll look into it for you.
I agree.
I can contact Russ for you, not a problem.
Yeah.
And I think Richard W. It's more important to respect the person's choice what to build than it is to understand or agree. I don't understand a person's choice of religion either, but I try to respect it. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about respect, at the end of the day. And there isn't the thing about scale modeling, in all fairness with you, over the years I've been doing scale modeling, I don't think there's hate amongst scale modelers. I think pretty much we encourage more that we edify and we encourage each other more than we put down. I've seen it. There's a few Facebook groups that you don't want to put your model in there because you'll get your ass tanned. And I think some of them there are women, who not women, I shouldn't say that, but who have who just want to beat you around a bit, if you know what I mean. I think there's the word women. I think that's wrong, but you know what I mean. The kind who would, they just go in there just to get on your grate. Do you know what I mean? It's I don't think of the term, but
there's a very small nucleus.
Yeah.
Or I should say a very small group rather than nucleus. There's a very small group of people in and around the hobby that have multiple axes to grind.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very, very small percentage.
Yes, it
is.
In
the main. I think in the main, most scale modelers will always encourage other scale modelers. Because as a community, as a hobby, worldwide, we are tiny.
Yeah.
We're a tiny group of people in comparison to, say, video games or other hobbies, people that play golf, people that whatever. We're very, very small. So that encouragement and that inclusivity exists within the hobby because we don't want the hobby to fizzle out. We want to encourage people to have a go at it, but there is a very small group, but they're often the group that shout the loudest.
It's funny, I wrote about this back along, about the idea that modelling is, when I first started doing it 40 odd years ago, it was a very individual thing, and you didn't meet many people that did what you did, and you therefore didn't learn very much. But when I've come back to it in the last 4 or 5 years, I've discovered this, that there's, I think, the modelling community, let's call them that, and all of you people that I'm looking at now, and all of the people in the chat, hello everybody. There's a good deal of joy actually at being able to share this, and I don't think the internet modelers have quite got over it yet. Hey, I can tell people about what I do.
Yeah,
and I think that's
you're
really
absolutely
good
right, Susan. And you've only got to. I mean, I've only been building models for 12, 13 years now. Now, I still consider myself new at it because there are people in this chat now, in this stream, that have been building models for decades.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly new to it, but I think the progression now balances against time because of the benefit of YouTube, because of the benefit of the social media. you progress so quickly now. Whereas
I think there's probably over a century worth of experience in this panel at the moment. So,
but then I don't think anyone here, in good conscience, can sit down and say they can hold a torch really to the likes of Martin Kovac, Plasmo, and all these different people. But what you can do now is you can watch Martin Kovac chip a tank. You can see how he does it. You can see what products he uses, and you can learn. Whereas years ago, you couldn't do that. You just couldn't do it because this didn't exist. So you progress a lot quicker now in your abilities and skills and experience. You progress a lot quicker. And that's just the way it is, and it's a great thing. And there's nothing better than being at a model show and you've got something on your stand. Someone comes over and say, "How did you do that?" And then you spend 30, 45 minutes, however long it may be, explaining how you did it, explaining what product. And that goes across the board. I've never, ever gone up to a stand and asked a question and been told, "I can't tell you." Encouraging.
As I said, I think that's one of the glorious things about our little group of model makers. Like the other day, there was somebody, young lad, in his 20s, built his first model kit. Obviously, he used the poly cement that was in the Airfix starter set. The paint job was atrocious because of he didn't water the paints down. The decals were terrible. But you know what? Not one person criticized. Everyone was saying, "Congratulations on your first build. Here's a few suggestions. Mix your paint 50-50 with water. Bin that shitty cement and put it in a bin. Get yourself some Tamir Extra Thin or some Revell contact." It was a positive, and it was joy to my heart to see. But as I said, there are some people on Facebook who like to, we call them trolls. And like I said, it's either, they've got home and they found out that their wife's on their 3-day laying an egg and they've had some shit from her for not doing something. So they go onto Facebook and slag off somebody on there to feel better for themselves.
It's the troll epicenter, man.
Yeah, it is.
We'll get them, and I think the only thing to do is to laugh at them. I had a guy comment on one of my videos, boring video he watched. Well, like, duh. Tell me something I don't know, for crying out loud.
Yeah. But as I said, it's but going back to what we were discussing, I think we've covered most of it. I think we've come to some sort of genuine conclusion. You build what you like. You build what you like, and it's up to your own moral compass on where you buy the kit, what you do with the kit, etc. If you want, and as I said from the very beginning, I've told you my standpoint, where my line is. As I said, it does break my heart a little bit, and I just wish it was all over with. I really do, and hopefully, if they can get together, knock some heads together, and say this isn't working, both of you have lost. People, your fellow countrymen, and there's no point in fighting no more. It's basically a stalemate between it. And then we can go back to buying Zvezda. But that's my stance on it. I won't buy Zvezda at the moment, or anything that's made by a Russian company. And that's how I feel. Now, if I've done it by mistake because I didn't realize it come from Russia, like my gas, then poor me for it. But as I said, from my point of view, it's being conscientious of what.
So, if you want to buy Moz as Zvezda Soyuz, you can, and send it to Moz.
Nigel, take that T-shirt off. It's a bit racist, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like you just said about buying an SU or a Su-27, is it okay to buy an SU-27 from Kitty Hawk, Hobby Boss? I mean,
That's up to you.
To the government, though, is it? That's the argument that we're having. Is that if you buy a Russian kit, that company's having to pay taxes that basically goes back into the government pocket, which then can be used to buy military vehicles or put into their war machine, their war effort. And that's where I feel that I'm justified in not buying a Zvezda kit or
if you buy a Zvezda kit from a supplier now that has current stock, not old stock, you are paying something like 64% import duty on that kit, which is why they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Or if it's been sitting on a model shop's shelf since it began.
But if you buy a kit that's been released since this war started, so you know it's not old stock, you are paying 65% import duty or 35%, which is why they're so expensive. But I will say that Zvezda 6x6 truck, Mustang, I think it's called, which is the same truck as the Pantsir is based on that I bought from Luke. That is probably the best truck kit on the planet. I mean, how many truck kits have not only on the exterior of the mud guards that when you open the cab are exposed, they've also got the detail on the inside as well. That kit is absolutely incredible. So you can knock them all you like. It's unfortunate they're in Russia. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Sorry. Daryl Master, I don't think the tax that comes from buying a Russian manufactured bit of plastic covers the war effort, to be honest. No, but it's the principle of it.
It goes into a pot, doesn't it? And then it's down to their treasury to decide what they spend that pot on. And at the moment, they're spending a lot on the war effort. Yeah. Of course they are.
We spend 2% GDP on military. They spend 40% GDP on military. So buying a plastic model, I don't think it's going to make much difference.
Correct.
But I know that I tell you what, you can go on and on and on. I know people who won't buy Nestle products because they heard that they send baby milk, powdered baby milk, to a country, and then once they get the baby onto this powdered milk, and the mother can't produce milk for that baby anymore, then they've got to buy the milk, and then they make them now nourished because they make it last longer and stuff like that. I know, I've heard it all over. I'm just telling you where I stood at the beginning, to be fair. So if you want to attack that, you can, but I'm just saying that's how I feel.
Well, not being funny, I used to work at Heathrow, and the Atmel used to go out to India.
Yeah. But I said it's all about it, isn't it?
I didn't see the beginning, Moss. Is this basically you had that review of that little Airfix Helix and you got a load of shit, yeah?
The helicopter.
Yeah. He lost a subscriber over it, Nigel.
He lost.
He's very upset.
I'm not upset. I was just saying that there's a pattern forming that every time and I think there's others who said the same. If they discuss or do a kit about a Russian subject, they get a lot of flack for it. And we already agreed, that my thumb down is 3 times more on any kit that I do that's related to Soviet or Russian than anything else that I've done. So I was just I thought that let's just have a debate about it. And at the end of the day, and let's talk about all the avenues. And we went through them all, which I believe was if it's the Soviet scheme or Russian scheme, is it a kit that's built or made in Russia, you can build up? Or is it right that we then buy kits from the likes of Tamiya, Hobby Boss and all that who have done kits that promote Ukraine? That's what I'm trying to get at was what's the side of the argument here? And I put out there that I wouldn't buy Russian-made models. My moral choice was because of the war. And that's where I stand on it. But I can see that there's a lot of, what can I say, twitchy bums in the modelling community, in the modelling manufacturing side of things, where you have noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, Russian subjects are down on re-releasing. And the last thing Airfix released that was Russian was that MiG-17 Fresco, where they released it in American captured scheme and Egyptian scheme. It wasn't released with a Soviet scheme with it at all. That's my point. You know, it wasn't just a case of...
It was released with the Russian scheme originally, Moss.
Of course it was, but that wasn't when the war started. Talk about re-release now.
Just after the war started, I did a review on the Trumpeter 135th version of that helicopter with the Quintus Studio cockpit set.
Yeah, you got hate for that.
Really well.
But,
You got quite a bit of hate for it, didn't you, Nigel?
But come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's why, and
like we said earlier, you have to get real in that perspective. If it is about being afraid to support a foreign nation in their war efforts, you're basically doing it already indirectly, just by purely using stuff in your daily life that is built from raw materials that are used and bought that way.
If we're
which
talking
is
about how
which is a fact of life. If you want to, you can stop buying Russian-made stuff if you want. That's your choice. Absolutely. I do it myself. I don't buy Zvezda these days, which is fine. That's my choice. I'm not going to begrudge anyone else doing it. I think the Hercules is absolutely great.
It is a great kit.
Yeah. That's absolutely fine. If someone else wants to buy that Herc, go ahead and do it.
I think that's where the difference is, isn't it? It's personal choice. You're not going to buy it because of your own personal choice, but conversely, you're not going to criticize anyone else for buying it.
Right, exactly.
You know, so it's personal choice. If you're getting into the realms of criticizing other people on a personal level, then in my view, and it's my personal choice to have a view, then you better be very strong in your convictions.
Yeah.
If you're willing to stick your head above the parapet and start criticizing others for their personal choice. If you're going to do that, just be very sure about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, if I put a review up of a Japanese BN-52 or a Zero or something, do I get a load of hate from people who live in Hawaii? Nope. And you know, when I do a Lancaster bomber, I don't get a load of hate from people who live in Dresden.
Exactly.
Or in the Ruhr Valley either.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's the world we live in today, and this you can easily be offended, and you can't.
To be honest, those are old conflicts, right? Because they're long gone. It's been 80 years. There's a lot of time in between there, and that tends to smooth over a lot of things. What we're currently talking about are active shooting conflicts, and that is always a contentious subject. So you will always get people who are against or don't care or choose a side, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And politics in general is always going to have that element of it. You're going to get people that are left wing. You're going to get people that are right wing. You're going to get people in the center. You're going to get people that believe in communism. You're going to get people that believe in Marxism, and all these different political views and ideologies. And you've got to read a lot. You've got to take in all the information, then form your own opinion. But be willing to listen to others' opinions as well, and not launch personal attacks. You know, and quote misguided facts to try and strengthen your argument, because most of the time they're going to be wrong unless you've read about it. There's someone in the chat, I'm not going to mention their name, and it's very easy to sit behind your keyboard and go off, but what are you actually doing? What are you actually doing, or what have you actually done? And if you want to talk about the Salisbury attack, I'm happy to talk about that offline because I was involved in it. So I couldn't give a monkey's what your opinion is.
Wow, I didn't know that, mate. Fair play. Bugler 75, you're a brave man to broach this subject. Well done, Moz, and to everyone for being respectful in their discussion. Comment, I would like to thank many members of the groups I am part of for their kind constructive comments from many on the panel and in chat who've watched and learnt from. Thank you very much.
Right
Do you
on.
think we should do a group build on a Russian subject? So there you go. If it's, well, like I said, what have you got in your stash? There's no point in leaving it in your stash. If you've already bought it, then build it.
Correct.
I've got no problem with that. This is what I'm saying. I've got the. You want to build Firefox in 3D print? Go ahead. You know what I mean?
That would be nice.
There is a cracking model of Firefox actually available.
I wish there was a.
There is.
Not in 3D or in proper plastic.
3D. You buy the.
Yeah, so I mean, I would love to build it in 3D, or plastic. You know, I've watched that film so many times. You know, think Russian. Yeah, it's a bloody good film. Totally bollocks, but bloody good film. Like it's I watched that when I was a kid. It's bloody, Clint Eastwood, isn't it? We're not going to do a quick build on a Russian subject at all.
Yeah, we're going to do a group build on the Zvezda Soyuz.
Yeah, I won't be part of that until well, who knows? Revell might rebox it. You never know. It's all good. There was one other point I was just going to make, and I've completely lost my train of thought now. So, if you don't want to buy Zvezda or Quinta, that's absolutely your prerogative. I don't either, but I will not pretend to be holier than thou. Realize it's just a kit is mere pittance compared to. I agree. It's exactly that. What's up for discussion? Xmos immigration. It's not that. That's political. We'll talk. Yeah, don't miss the point. Should I get rid of my Russian wife? Is she good in bed? Then don't. How it looks like. If you're that concerned, go fight. Well, that's not. It's by and by. I'll tell you what, though. If there's anything, you will never ever see me buy a Mac 2 kit ever.
No.
Because they're fucking shit.
They are fucking shite.
They are so shite.
They are the fucking.
I would give them to the Russians to build. Do you know what I mean? If I was given one, I'll send it to Russia for them to build it.
Would that be considered an act of terrorism?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I tell you what, the amount of filler involved, they wouldn't be able to fight. They'll be using everything to put the filler in it. They're shite. I've got every kit going. I've got Mr. Craft. I've got Revel, Hella, Tamiya, Kitty Hawk. I've got all these kits.
Mac 2 makes Mr. Craft look like the latest Tamiya release.
It does, yeah.
What about Starfix?
Mac 2 are basically garage kits anyway, so he's actually molding them in his garage.
Mac 2 is like a reconstituted bag of sick.
Yeah, I'm Nigel. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound very positive to me.
Do you know why they called it Mac 2? Because that's how fucking fast you throw it in the bed.
Mind you, what did they release the last time? Andover or HS748, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
Yeah. Say that again, sorry, you broke up.
748, was it?
748.
Yeah.
No, what kit was that?
That's their latest release.
No, it was what was the kit? There's 3 actually that I've been so far.
The Belgian one looks nice actually.
I'd rather an aircraft fuselage out of one of Dottie's turds than try and get a Mac 2 kit to look like something.
That's right. It was the HS7. Yeah, it was the 748. The Hawker Siddeley 748. Yeah.
Belgium one looks nice.
Nigel's just come up with a sort of modelling version of a Yo Mama joke, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'm just looking in my.
It's absolutely fine. You just need an industrial sander. That's all.
It was.
And,
It was.
And some mortar.
It just sounded.
It wasn't the 748. It was the Bell X1A is one of them that I threw away because I just couldn't be out of it. And it was the Argosy, I think it was.
Argosy.
Yeah, Argosy. That's the
Ross,
one.
have they sent him to have Mac 2 sponsored you?
No, not at all.
I was going to say that.
55 quid I paid for it.
Yeah.
55 quid. Just yeah. It's never buy another one again.
But they're basically garage kits.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they do. He does have interesting subjects every now and then, which makes it nice because no one else would do this particular one in 1/72nd scale in injection molding, even if it is not the best injection molding, but still.
Well, that VC10 I had, yes, it was a mess. The shaping was all wrong, and I filled it and repaired it. It moved overnight. It was just, I came back to it the next day and it was all moved. The plastic was like it was uncured. It was awful. Awful thing.
I actually think that was probably still a dinosaur, Nigel, but...
You saw the videos. You saw the videos. Lying. It was disgusting. It was junk. Absolute junk.
Yeah. I think pretty much everyone here in the comments basically said the same as us. Build what you want. It's your choice. No one else's. And then, as I said, as I was saying, if people were saying I was politicizing it, I think you were politicizing it when you were commenting in the ways that you were. So,
question: if you build a Revell Vesda Reebok, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine because you probably bought that before the war started.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You know, me and Luke had a discussion about this. I think either on here that there was a lot of scale model shots when the war started. People were not buying the Vesda kits, and I was saying that you were cutting your nose to spite your face because that model shop was already bought that kit before the war even started. So
I mean, that's what I bought. I think I bought 3 48 scale Hinds from my local model shop after the war had started. But obviously, it's a great shop, and I want to keep it going. If I can buy something from there, although it's slightly more expensive than buying it off the internet, then I will. And I bought those not because, firstly, I love the Hind. I think it's an amazing helicopter.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it as a political statement, but he had loads of Vesda stuff on his shelf. So to him, all that is pound notes. On his shelf. He's already bought that stuff. So if people then boycott it, all you're doing is taking money away from that store. He's already bought that stuff. You know, it's not going to make any difference whether I buy it or not because he's already paid for it.
My most recent Vesda purchase was in 2020, and that was a Borodino battleship, and that's 350. But that's an old mold. That was a 2009, 2007 release, something in there. So that's been in the shop for a really long time already.
For a long time, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't really care. I buy that thing because it has my interest, because it's 1904, 1905, right? That's a historical interest for me. And they are the only ones who carry that. I'm not going to go for the Eastern Express one, which is actually the same, but yeah, okay. Where does that leave me? If I want to build a historical subject like that, that's the only way to go. They haven't re-released it recently, so
and again,
I'm not really bothered in that perspective, and that's a choice.
Can I just ask a question? we've all got this goodness in our hearts. We're not going to buy anything made in Russia because it's disgusting, because of this, that, and the other. Yeah. If China invade Taiwan,
What are you going to do?
Chinese stuff, because if we do, we'll have fuck all.
Absolutely correct. And
Is that what we'll do? Are we going to boycott China if they invade Taiwan?
Life is going to be interesting in that case.
I think, do you know what? I think there are things already in place that we won't need China in 5 years.
That's a bold statement. What date is it today? 17th of February 2025. So
Yeah.
Because I think
17th of February 2030. I'm going to message Mars on his iPhone.
Yeah, that's made in India. That'll be made in India. It'll be made in India.
Chinese components.
No, I
have got a new factory in Dorchester.
Yeah.
There's exactly one country in recent history that tried to go completely autarkic, i.e. being completely self-sufficient in all its means without dependencies on other countries. And I think we all know which one we're talking about. That guy.
Yeah. And I think the only way we can truly be completely self-sufficient, and it won't happen in my lifetime, touch wood, and I don't think it'll happen in anyone's lifetime or even our children's lifetime. Once there is a proper nuclear war and 3/4 of the population is wiped out and powerful governments are wiped out and everyone's gone back to basics, living in a tent, boiling water on, that is the only way you can be truly self-sufficient in the world we live in now. It's the only way. Because otherwise you just can't. Everything is controlled by somebody.
Just for a practical matter in this case, let's say, for instance, that we do manage in Europe to get our own chip manufacturer sets and all that kind of stuff in place. That still leaves you guys with a problem, because then it's still import tariffs because you're outside the EU.
And it makes everything really expensive.
Just to make an example.
Yeah, and it makes everything really expensive and people can't afford it. So guess what? They're going to do what I do for modeling tools. They're going to go onto Temu, which is Chinese, and they're going to order it from there because it's too expensive to get it from Europe, for example, because of the import tariffs, because now we're no longer part of Europe, allegedly.
Well, I as I said, I think that this way, like if you look at your TV, it's made in Korea. There's Vietnam is becoming quite big now with making stuff. India is becoming huge
with Chinese components
stuff. Well, to be fair, a lot of electronics companies are shifting over their workloads from mainland China into Taiwan and Vietnam, for instance, to avoid the whole tariff situation.
That's what I think. But you look at the iPhone. The iPhone is all the parts not made in China, shipped to China to be made into an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was told. The processor's made in Korea, the screen's made in Korea, South Korea. All the other bit. The only thing that's actually done in China is that they bolt it all together in one place because they got the factory to do it.
A lot of it is made in China, boss. A lot of everything.
I'm just saying.
What you go buy an Audi, a BMW, a Merc. A lot of the electronics and chips and everything in that car are made in China.
But the body shell for your iPhone is actually made in mainland China.
But if they're going to manufacture it in India, then they'll just get the body side of it made in India. That's what I'm trying to get at.
As long as it's not crappy plastic and bad QA.
Well, this is it. I know. I'm not saying nothing. Right, Moz, question. How many kits in your stash are War Machine and how many are not? If kit makers didn't do War Machine, there would be limited kits about. I disagree. I think there's too much war stuff in the scale modeling community.
Yes.
There's too much of it. 100%. Look at Nigel, a Yaris. He wants a Yaris. I would love to build a decent Volvo P40 or S40 or S20 even, or C20. You know, I can go through the raft of cars that none of us can build because nobody's built them.
Moss,
There's more
is
different
coming.
models of cars and lorries and everything else that
Moss,
would overtake more. Go on, then.
Moss, S40 is coming.
It is coming, is it?
Yeah, Nunu are doing one.
Oh, they good. But just saying that I think we talk about Airfix release another Spitfire. You look at all the companies just releasing stuff that's all military. Kids don't really want to do military. I think if scale modeling needs to change tack and look at things like decent Boeings, decent Airbuses for a start, Embraers. Nobody does a decent Q400 for fuck's sake. War machines are ultimately, but I think that the company that really used to excite me about cars was Italeri, because they used to do lots and lots of vehicles. Look at all the Globetrotter, the Volvos and all that. I think there's a scale modeling community. I think that there's so many subjects out there, but they seem to always focus on war.
Because that's what the majority of people are interested in.
Well, I don't know.
Go to any model show. I
understand that. But you're saying that, is it really? Because a lot of people who are building models now are interested in fantasy. I'm pretty sure if scale modeling, if there was a company that created world rally cars, Formula One cars, super bikes and everything, just one company that does all that, you'll have scale modelers coming from that fraction of who like watching Formula One and motorsports, building scale models.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
But I think you're talking about a minority.
Well, minority were models in the military.
But the majority of modelers want to build military subjects.
Why though?
Because as a species, that's what we're interested in.
So when I went to Truck Fest 9 years ago with Shepton Mallet, there was a guy there selling model kits, right? Yeah. I can assure you that people were leaving that tent with lorries and trailers and cars, not the Airfix.
But you're at Truck Fest.
No, but because that's just target. But the target audience is completely different in that case, right?
But that's what I'm saying.
If you're going to a truck show,
I guess they were going away.
You're going to sell trucks.
Of course,
but that's what I'm saying.
But you go to Bovington, and the majority of people leaving that venue are going to be taking away tanks.
Yeah, but that's my point. Oh, hang on. That's my Dottie's on.
Hi, Dottie.
What a cutie. And I would imagine that Bovington attracts way more numbers every year than Truck Fest.
Yeah, but my point was that we don't. I'm sure that if you created more cars, more lorries, that you'll get lorry drivers who aren't got an interest in doing the planes and stuff, the military stuff, will end up building that. And I know a few modelers who all they do is commercial airlines, So, but and then with the realm of
as a rule, the majority of the scale modeling community builds military models. As a rule, generally, you're always going to get the minority. Look at any model show. Look at any model competition. Look at the list of SIGs within IPMS UK. The vast majority are military themed. Any model competition, the vast majority of entries. So even you look at our nationals, look at Telford, 95% probably of all entries in that model competition are military themed. You do have the civil aircraft, you do have the trucks, you do have the cars, you have the plant machinery and all that stuff. But the manufacturers are going to cater to their audience.
But as I'm trying to get at is that I think the cars are underrated, because if you look at what Tamiya has released in the last 5 years, it's more like 70-30 when it comes to military to their cars. They release more cars in 124th, 130, whatever it is, than they've done in military. You look at Tamiya; I think they've seen the whole, and that's why they're releasing all these cars.
But I don't think it's anywhere near 70-30.
Tamiya seems to be really doing nothing lately. There's just
It's mostly cars.
stuff. There's nothing coming out.
Yeah, but you look at their predominant markets,
Oh, see,
they're catering to their market.
Can I just
What-
say,
What
Thank
do you think would happen if Mini Art started doing cars and bikes? What do you think would happen if Hobby Boss started doing cars and bikes?
But Mini Art
What do you
do.
think would- Yeah, but it's a very small percentage.
I don't know. I
It
don't,
is. It is a very small percentage.
Okay. But my point is that I don't think modeling will not die if they weren't doing more War Machine stuff. But what I've seen about more scale modelers is that they do their jets and but they also do cars and lorries and stuff. Civilian stuff as well.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
it's
think
a small
it's
percentage.
a small percentage, but I think everyone here does military. I bet you've done cars and bikes, etc. on the side. I know John has.
I've just built a tractor.
I know Nigel has.
I've just built a tractor.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Civilian. So there is, there is that draw.
Just a small indicator. I'm just looking at some posts from one of the bigger modeling forums, right? From let's say from 2008 onwards, we have 820,000 posts on built aircraft, 90,000 on armor, 90,000 on maritime subjects, and 49,000 on cars, vehicles. Just to give the sort of range that we're talking about. So that's about a tenth of what aircraft kits do. That's your vehicles. So I think it would be reasonable to say that's about 10 to 15% of the total modeling market in that case.
But to be fair, though,
your civilian vehicles.
I think, to be fair, though, what probably was is getting at is if there was more people manufacturing civil stuff, then you probably would get maybe an even amount of it. Because I've got to admit, if there was, because there is some civil stuff I'd be interested in doing, and if there was more of it, you'd probably see a shift in my videos towards, because I'd love to do some excavators. There's a few cars I wouldn't mind doing.
Exactly, and Mike, Sully, me and you've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
If there was quarry plant machinery, I'd be all over that, like a 14-year-old overloaded magazine. Do you know what I mean? I would be so over it.
It's a bit like Ravel did our really big diggers. You know that one from the day mining.
Yeah, did that coal mining digger, didn't they?
Yeah.
Moss, Hasagawa do plant machinery.
Yeah,
limited though, isn't it?
Very limited.
But that's what I think. That's what me and Moz are sort of saying, is that it's just that the civilized stuff, the civilian stuff, is a lot more limited than you have with the armor. I do appreciate what everyone's saying. It's like, because I mean, I am heavily into military stuff, but there's not many civil stuff out there for me to be able to do it. So I am kind of stuck sticking with the military stuff.
But I think that's where the manufacturers have to. I mean, how much does it take as initial funding to produce a model kit? It's not.
That's going to be the problem. That's it's.
So it depends on how you do it, because if you do it smart, like for instance, I'm waiting for Helen to do their 1/24 scale Peugeot 205 GTI, because that's the car I used to own, right?
Yeah.
They've done that one as one of those rally models. So the Group B one did it in several editions, and it's only now that they're bringing out a civilian version, right? The normal street version, the street car.
So here's a little stat. Here's a little stat for you, Luke. Right. So over the years, Tamiya have produced and released over 400 tanks, according to Scalemates.
Yeah.
When it comes to cars,
it's
nigh on 800.
Okay, and how many of those are re-releases?
That's what I just said to you. Releases and re-releases.
Okay.
Tanks 400.
Yeah.
Cars 815. And if we
Okay.
click tanks and that and just go down to releases, let me just go have a look. So it's a new tool.
Yeah.
New tool. Right. So I'm going to new tool now. Let that load up. Tanks, brand straight off the bat, new releases, as in new tooled.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 125 tanks.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 296 cars.
Yeah.
How many I have? And most of the cars is from later on. Heavily in the tanks at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's as if they thought, well, we've done it all now. Done the tanks.
And
Let's really go for the cars.
Yeah.
they still haven't done a GI Yaris.
They haven't done a GI Harris, yeah.
No. But if you look at Tamiya's,
Go on.
look at it,
He's frozen.
it's not just about one manufacturer and one set of stats. If you look at their market, where the majority of Tamiya's market is, the majority of people there are going to buy cars.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying. If
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. If we're looking at the Tamiya range, for instance, how many Alfa Romeo 155s are there?
Yeah.
No.
How many Ford
How many boxings are there? Come on.
Dirk, you missed the point then. I'm talking about new tools. They produce double the amount
of 5s.
What I mean by that is it's really it is quite easy to go and make more versions of a civilian car in a scheme than it is to do tanks, because tanks have a limited amount of versions basically available, especially the World War II.
And
right?
from a research point of view, when they're developing that kit, it is much easier to go and look at the brand new McLaren and research that model kit from a design point of view than it is to go and look at an M1 Abrams or a Challenger 3. Or
it depends. They have those as well, so that's not really the point. But in general,
military subjects are much more difficult to research and get right than civilian subjects. Much more difficult.
I'm not sure if I agree on that one. I think it's about 50-50 on that one.
I don't agree. Because a lot of the new military hardware, they won't hand it over to a model kit manufacturer to crawl all over it and take measurements. They won't do that.
Can I just say that you just brought up the argument about they've released how many 155s? Okay, they've only actually tooled one 155, and they've released it 7 times. But there's that Churchill tank there where they've released over 14 times.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I mean. You've got to look at it from the examples I'm saying. Is that I just think that Airfix started going somewhat way to appeasing the market of thinking about with their starter set, where they banged out 4 sports cars in the space of 3 years. Now my argument was, what's the point in bringing out a Bugatti and things like that? Because kids will understand that. But no, they weren't aiming for the kids. They were aiming for the adults, those sports cars, to get them into the hobby. So I'm thinking that if they do that, that must mean that they must have done their market research and
Did it work?
There's a pardon?
Did it work?
Well, yeah, they're selling. They're aiming for that market. They're aiming. They wouldn't have produced that kit unless they thought there was some sort of future for it.
I'll just weigh in. Now, can I weigh in a little bit here on the market, because I've just discovered something that really quite surprised me. Would anybody here like to hazard a guess at the global scale plastic model kits marketplace size? The size of the total market?
If you got it from that website, it's lying, because it isn't. It's over exaggerated to me. Pay for the thing.
I've looked at several. Actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's a £560 million market, isn't it?
No, it's $5.2 billion US up to 2023. That's an estimated. So you can only estimate basically based on market on. Yeah, This is a worldwide marketplace. Remember.
Oh, I
Now-
thought that's how much I spent last year.
And that's not how much you spend. No, but it's expected to grow by 2032. By 2032 by about 4.5% a year, which means it's going to be about $7.8 billion. Now you've got to factor in price increases in there, but the market's bloody enormous. There are really rather a lot of people just like you all over the world doing this.
The only problem with that statistic, mate, is that it drags in everything, including scale electrics, includes RC, and if you know what Tamiya have put out there on many occasions, that I think, if I'm right in saying, this has been reported.
Does it include Gundam?
But that when it comes to scale modeling and Tamiya, it's like 4% of their business. The rest of it, 96% of it, is radial control cars. So you've got to be very careful with that stat, because I've seen
the specific market data I'm looking at is quite specific on plastic model kits, plastic scale model kits, and it's covering aircraft, cars, ships, and military by scale 124, 148, 172, and then they calls them others, through distribution channels, which is online, hobby shops, supermarkets, and others. And then by end users, so hobbyists, which is by far the largest, educational institutions and others. It's really very detailed, very detailed.
I can't see it being 5 billion. I just can't see it.
Does that include Gundam stuff?
I've not looked that deeply into it. I have to pay a few hundred quid.
That's a pretty big one. That's a pretty big one.
You've caught on.
Premium as well.
Those there you've caught on, because I get them because I got search parameters that I've got on Google. So I type in the word Airfix, Revell, Tamiya, and I get those emails all the time when they say we've got this information here on the size of whatever it is. So like the other day we had airbrushing, and they reckon it's a £2.2 billion global thing. And when you click on it, you've got to pay hundreds and hundreds of pounds to see their research. I think it's a scam, that is. I get them all the time, Suzanne. I wouldn't take too much. I do not think that it's £5 billion, because if that was the case, then there'd be a lot of rich people at Airfix,
one can't look at a regional marketplace and then try and equate it to a global marketplace.
I just can't see it. I really can't see it being 5 billion. I just can't see it.
Compare that. Let's take. I think it's a lot less than that.
Yeah.
But take that figure of 5 billion and compare that against the global market for golf, the global market for gaming. The scale modeling is tiny in comparison to other hobbies.
Something that surprised me many years ago, I read, was that Tamiya's market outside of Japan is something like 9% or something.
Yeah.
Like 91% of their sales come from within Japan.
The rest of the world was an afterthought.
Something like 87% of it is RC.
Holy smokes.
See lots and lots of plastic kits coming. But I'll say the same now as I said last week. There's been nothing coming out of Tamiya for the last 2 years, except for old releases. Stick a bit of photo etch, some new decals. There we go.
Yeah, I just, as I said, I'm not convinced by those surveys that get put out there, because they're asking you for hundreds of pounds, and I get them all the time, because, as I said, I've got a Google search thing where I've got like words like Airfix model kits, Revell model kits, Tamiya model kits, trumpeter, and if somebody puts an article out there or something, and a lot of it comes from these researchers, you say that this is how much it's worth, and then you've got to spend hundreds of pounds to get that market information. I think it's a bit spamming and scammy, that. So, but I can't see it being worth 5.6 billion. And you've got to add everything to it, and that includes your Warhammer.
So what's to bring it back to the original discussion then? What's the percentage that Svesta takes from that?
Teeny.
But like I said, it's a moral choice, isn't it? Do you want your pounds? But then again, like I'm stuck because I have to pay my fucking council tax every month. And if I could decide how many times, that they, where they put that money to, I'll be, no, thank you. I don't want my money to be spent there, but I have to go with the flow. But when it comes to being able to not buy a particular product, I have my right not to do it, and so I don't. Anyway,
that's your own prerogative, and I think it's absolutely fine if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, what a debate we've had tonight! It's been brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been very good. I think we've come to some sort of conclusions. Next week we're gonna talk about breast milk and whether breast is best, or we're gonna get
Breast is best.
May the future. I get all that. There's a lot to be said here. Wow, yeah. If there's 8 billion people in the world, people buying kits across the planet, I can see 5 billion being spent. Well, I'm not convinced. I mean, unless they're all like me and they spend 300 quid on a pre-order and then get called out by RTB models as being a tosser because I was just showing off. Have you heard of RTB models?
They called you a tosser?
He called me a tosser. RTB models called me a tosser.
I've heard of RTB models.
Yeah, he had beef with Scale Hanger 182. And he like copied his channel and started writing stuff about him to Dashia, whatever she was called.
Yeah.
And now he put on one of my videos that not all of us can afford to spend 300 quid on a model kit. You're just showing off, you tosser, or something like that. And I said, if you work hard like I do and do the 60, 70 hours a week, earning my wage, and the only thing and the only thing I've got is my hobbies. And so if I want to spend 300 quid on pre-orders, thank you very much. But then somebody's been posting to me all the stuff like his daughter apologized. He has nothing to do with him because he's a troll. And he was all on Scale Model Hangers Discord about it. This guy called Lenny, he's called. He's got his own channel, but he's sponsored by this hobby company called Frontline Models. Yeah. So I won't be buying off that shop in any time soon, I can assure you.
Do me a favor, Mark. Send him over to my channel.
Yeah.
£200 for him. It's not
300 quid I spent. 300 quid. Yeah. 300.
I reviewed a kit that cost less than 200 quid.
The thing is, like I said earlier, Mark, when we were chatting earlier offline, it's relative. However much you choose to spend, you as an individual is relative. If you haven't got the means to spend 300 quid on pre-orders or whatever, well, my view is work harder.
Yeah,
that's going to cause you an issue, and you want
or take longer. I personally, I think the work harder is a bit of a dodgy excuse.
I don't think it is.
And you have to save up. Like that's a typical Dutch attitude.
Yeah. I work 70 hours a week. I'm only contracted for 40. Why is that? Because I want more money in my bank.
Yeah, that's right.
If you get paid for the 70 hours, then it's fine.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. We all work hard.
I went to university and got a degree in medical science. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to knock my door and say, we're going to pay your mortgage for you.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah, he's
got to make your own way in the world.
Yeah. He's a channel on YouTube, RTB Models. He's called Lenny. He had a fight with Scale Hanger 182, and he was very rude to his girlfriend on a certain post.
I know him now.
Yeah, he's called Lenny, and he came on my channel and said I was a tosser for spending 300 quid on Airfix kits, and I was just showing off. And I was like, it's people like us can't afford that sort of money. We'll go out and fucking earn it, then.
Exactly.
He showed off in one of it because I watched his videos. I kept out of it, but I know he was quite nasty to Model Minutes as well, accusing him of buying subs. But he showed me his room where he shows his room where he does all of his models, and basically there's a bed in it, And there he is on a little bench building models. I'm thinking he's still
And
at home with his mum, isn't he?
But that's
what
fair enough. That's fair enough if he's happy doing that. If he's happy building 20 quid kits that take him 6 months on a small table in a spare bedroom, that's fair enough. But again, when he's starting to personally attack people and calling them tossers for spending more than he can afford, well, if it's causing you that much of an issue, that someone can spend 300 quid and you can only spend 30, well, there's a simple solution to that.
Rich, you're right. Yeah, no penny Lenny.
Jeremy Clarkson does a review of £100,000 Ferrari. Does he expect flat from people that can't afford £100,000 Ferrari?
I'd love a Ferrari, but I can't afford one.
No, same
But
here.
what I'm not going to do is walk down the road and criticise someone who's driving a Ferrari.
Exactly.
I'd like to show you
Because
the
they
Alps.
can afford it.
I do get pissed off when I'm overtaken by that Porsche up the road. It's a beautiful Porsche. I think it's the latest model or something. I can't remember what it's called now.
They can.
But the guy behind it is 19. I'm thinking, fuck off, Daddy bought you that, you bastard. You know what I mean?
But so what? So
Yeah,
what? His dad has bought him because his dad has obviously earned the money where he's in a position to do it.
Yeah.
No, Ross, what it is, that guy has got a YouTube channel and he has £300 video reviews.
That's what it was, yeah. So if you know, I don't. He's called RTB Models. I just thought, you know what, I would never ever go on somebody's channel and abuse them like that. Never. I just wouldn't even comment. I just walk away. If I don't like the guy, I don't watch him. But he went on there, called me a tosser. I thought I'd go over to his channel, and then I remembered by looking at the pictures and everything, you know, the way he was. I was thinking, hang on a minute, this is the guy that Scale Hanger had a problem with. And because what he'd done was he went on and created another channel, started talking to Dacia, right, in Russia, saying he loved her and everything, impersonating. So when you go on to that second channel, it's got his fucking email address on there. Same email address on both. Like, you know, that's how we got found out. I put all the pictures on Discord so you can see what Dawid saw in the guy, like, you know. But when he called me a tosser, I was like, fucking hell, you don't do that, mate. I've taken the comment. I left it up for a few hours. I screenshotted it, obviously. But he's sponsored by a firm called Frontline Hobby Shop, Model Shop. And I'm thinking, as if I'm going to go to that model shop now and buy any kits off you. You've lost me, mate, definitely. But RTB Models, go check the guy out. Bit of a troll.
If Jeremy Clarkson gets back off the Toyota Yaris people, then fair play to the Toyota Yaris people. Is what I say. I love Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, he's all right, isn't he?
Yes,
He's a lad. Anyway, we've had a good night tonight. It's been really good. Thank you all the panel for joining me tonight to discuss this conundrum. I think we've got some answers, and I think at the end of it was, if he has his email, sign him up on Grindr. Okay. But as I said, hopefully we've come away knowing.
For anyone trying to do that, don't. That's a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
Don't do that.
But again, I think, you know, we've basically walked through the battlefield of this, and I think we've come away all on the same hymn sheet. That at the end of the day, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Thank you, comrades.
Yes. And with that bombshell, we'll leave you. That's
Thing,
isn't it? Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you again back next Monday. Thanks all, and goodbye.